Welcome to another chilling episode of Sinister narrative, where we delve into the darkest corners of history to uncover the stories that have left indelible marks on society. Today we're taking you on a journey through the heartlands of British Columbia, Canada, to explore the life and crimes of one of the most notorious serial killers in modern history, Robert Pickton. The most important thing in the case of Robert Pickton that will surprise you is the fate of Robert after his arrest. We invite you to stay with us until the end of this case and express your opinion about this issue. Let's dive in. Robert Pickton was born on October 24, 1949 in Port Coquitlam, suburb of Vancouver, British Columbia. He came from a family with a history of violence and mental illness, which would later become the backdrop against which his own horrific actions unfolded. Robert grew up alongside his younger brother David and his elder sister named Lindy. Robert's parents, after their marriage, bought and managed a pig farm. After some time, Robert's parents sent their daughter to Vancouver because they believed that working on their farm wasn't suitable for a girl. It was probably the best decision they made in their lifetime. On the other side, from a young age, both Robert and his brother were involved into the family's pig farming operation, which allowed them to earn a substantial income independently. Throughout their schooling, Robert and his brother went to school 2 days a week and worked on the farm the rest of the days. Since Robert and his brother had no friends at the school and were in complete isolation, and due to this issue and the fact that they could earn a substantial income by working in the farm, they finally decided to leave the school completely. Gary's initial shock was when he was 17 years old and was driving with his brother David. After some time, David became aware that he had lost control of the vehicle. The car eventually came to a halt upon colliding with an object. Upon exiting the car, the brothers discovered that they had struck an 8-year-old boy named Tim. Despite the child being alive at this point, Robert and David hastily returned home to inform their mother about the accident. Upon arriving at the scene of the accident, Gary and Robert couldn't believe what they were witnessing. Their mother seized the blood-soaked boy by his hair and forcibly pushed him into a nearby well. This horrifying event left both brothers profoundly stunned. Finally, while they hearing the sound of the boy's struggle in the well, they returned home. After the police found the child, it was clear that there was no connection between Robert and his family regarding the homicide. This discovery led Robert to reflect seriously. He considered the possibility of committing murder without getting caught. When Robert was 22 years old, because he felt that he should experience a new excitement in his life, he started a relationship with sex workers. This matter wasn't a problem for Robert because he had been working since he was a child and earned sufficient income. So Robert took pleasure in his relationship with this girl for a long time. After some time, Robert's father died due to his old age, and his mother was also diagnosed with cancer. Finally, after a period of time, his mother also dies. Now, the whole of the pig farm belongs to Robert and his siblings. Considering that Robert started working on the farm from a young age and had enough amount of saving, he asked his siblings to sell their share of the farm to his. Lindy and David agreed and sold their entire share to their brother. Now Robert owned the whole of the farm. In 1996, Robert and his brother founded a charity called Piggy Palace on the farm. It held parties to raise funds for groups in need. As many as 2,000 people would attend these parties. Among them were sex workers, homeless, and addicted people from downtown East Side. This made Robert very famous. But this wasn't enough for Robert, and he didn't have enough excitement for his life. At the same time as these celebrations were held, many women were missing in the city. Robert initially used his own van car. After stealing the sex workers, brought them to her cabin on the farm, and after imprisoning and raping them, finally after several days, he would set them free. The reason for letting the girls go was because no one believed what they said. But after some time, Robert didn't allow the girls he brought to the farm to return. On the other hand, due to the fact that the number of missing women was very high, there was a rumor in the downtown East Side about the existence of a serial killer. But in any case, Robert continued to his activities. But Robert wasn't lucky all the time. The first time that led the police to suspect Robert was when one of the girls managed to escape from Robert. A girl named Wendy Allen. After Robert stole Wendy and raped her in his house, he severely tortured Wendy and handcuffed her. After a while, Robert was resting. When he realized that Wendy wasn't there, he quickly looked for her. Trying to find something to protect her, Wendy finally attacked Robert with a knife. The stab wounds injured Robert and Wendy, and eventually Wendy ran away from Robert. Afterward, Wendy barely made it to the hospital. While still handcuffed, she told the police the whole of a story. The name that Wendy uttered surprised the police officers. It was Robert Pickton, one of the famous people in the area. Occasionally, even the police officers would visit Robert's restaurant for meal and beverages. Completely coincidentally, Robert also went to the same hospital for his injuries a few hours later. And after being questioned by the police, he finally claimed that Wendy was a sex worker who came to his house and tried to rob him tools after sexual relation. With these explanations, Robert was able to completely escape from arrest and additional investigations. This was the moment that Robert became sure that he could do bigger things. After a short period of time, he started doing something that he was most excited about it and repeated this pattern for many times. For this, Robert took a girl named Warnie, who was addicted to heroin and was a sex worker. After the rape and torture, finally Robert killed Warnie and used Warnie's body parts to feed pigs. Robert also sometimes used his victims to make sausages for his restaurant customers. These moments were the moments that created the peak of excitement in Robert. In fact, Robert had realized that if he commits any crime but leave no traces of his crimes, the possibility of arrest for him is 0%. He then used this pattern for his subsequent murders. After some time, considering that about 30 girls from that area were missing, some of the girls who had families reported the issue of missing their daughters, but the police didn't pay attention to this issue. The police probably put the possibility that the girls either overdosed or ran away. But everyone knew that a man with a van car comes to the neighborhood and the girls he takes never come back. This had caused a big problem in process of Robert's murders. After some time, Robert met Lynn and Dina. Robert agreed with Dina, who didn't have a place to live, to bring sex workers for Robert and stop following the fate of these girls, and instead to have a place to live. Finally, Dina accepted this offer. Robert and Lynn also met each other for the first time at the bar and became close together after realizing they have a common interest to girls. In one of the adventures that arose between Robert and Lynn after sexual relation with a girl named Georgina, Lynn was sleeping, but when he woke up, he heard a sound from the farm slaughterhouse. When he got there, he couldn't believe what he was seeing. The girl he had a relationship with a few hours earlier had been horribly killed. When Robert noticed Lynn's presence, at this moment, Lynn couldn't move because of his shock, and when he saw Robert, he was sure that he would be his next victim. To his surprise, Robert asked Lynn if he wanted to get a taxi for him or not, which Lynn accepted. After this incident and Lynn's return from the farm, Lynn sold his house and ran away from the area and never went to see Robert again. Finally, after all these events, just when Robert had reached the peak of his pride, he started doing strange things that finally led to his arrest. During this time, Robert breaks all the security protocols that prevent him from being arrested. For example, Robert started kidnapping girls again personally. He even killed 2 girls in one case, and this time he didn't use the body parts of these girls to feed the pigs. Robert froze the body parts of these girls in his bar fridge. In one case, he even placed a girl's body parts in a barrel to decide on it later. Robert also didn't clean the place of these murders and the weapons used in these murders as before, and put them inside his house. It was exactly during this time that Bill Hickox, who was working at Robert's farm, called the police and said that suspicious things were happening at this farm, and there is no news or sign of the girls who come to this farm. But the police didn't pursue this matter because Bill didn't provide any document to prove it. After some time, Wemble calls the police again and says that he heard the sound of a woman choking, given that the police had received many similar reports of Robert over the years. The police end up going to Robert Pickton's farm, and finally they find the weapons and tools that Robert used to torture and kill the victims. Police officers were shocked by the tools they found. At this time, Robert is arrested, but after 11 hours of interrogation, they cannot prove anything. Police officers used an undercover police inside Robert's cell to solve this, and finally Robert confessed all his crimes to undercover police. But Robert told the undercover police that even if they charged me, they wouldn't be able to find any trace of my crimes. After this confession by Robert, the police, who were convinced that Robert is a serial killer, went to the pig farm, and after examining the whole of farm, found all the tools and weapons that used in torture and kill the girls. Body parts of the girls that were frozen, traces of blood, victims' clothes, and body parts in the battle. For even more certainty, the police used a DNA test to prove that the DNA of the missing girls was on Robert's tools and weapons. Although Robert had committed 49 murders, the police were able to prove 26 of these murders. The incredible thing about this case is that even with this amount of evidence, Robert was finally acquitted in court by the lawyers hired by his brother. But because the people of the region staged a massive demonstration in 2009 during a retrial, Robert was convicted of 6 counts of second-degree murder and sentenced to life imprisonment with parole after 25 years. But Robert applied for parole after 1 year of his conviction, which was ultimately rejected. Finally, in 2024, Robert Pickton, when he was 74 years old, was seriously injured. 2 weeks after the attack of his cellmate, he died due to his injuries on May 31 in a hospital in Quebec. The story of Robert Pickton is a chilling reminder of darkness that can lurk within the seemingly ordinary. It serves as a stark warning about the importance of addressing societal issues such as poverty, addiction, and violence against women. Thank you for joining us today. If you like this podcast, please like, comment, and subscribe us. Until next time, stay safe and keep listening to Sinister Narrative.